Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the crazy Manticore lady, aka Crone Hellebron, one of the few characters I think that it's decent to mount on a Manticore. If you guys had watched my top 5 worst monsters list video, you'd know that I ranked the Manticore as the #1 worst monster. But for some reason, Crone Hellebron keeps her anti-infantry armor piercing when she's on this guy, so not a bad option, honestly. Puts her up in the air, gives her fear and terror. It is still low armor, only 45 armor and 35 melee defense means she is pretty squishy, so you do have to be careful of that. But being Crone Hellebron, she's got the Cursed Blade here, which one of you guys was mentioning that this doesn't work, so we'll check that and see if that's true in this battle. Also has a magic resistance, of course, heroic killing blow, and the Gaze of Cain, putting her total magic resistance to 22%. The rest of the army here, we've got 2 Sisters of Slaughter, a single Blade of the Blood Queen, well, the only Blade of the Blood Queen, of course, Sorceress, Lore of Death, frontline, Dread Spears with the Hellebronai, and we've got a nice Vanguard of Dark Riders, we've got some Doomfire Warlocks, a nice mix of light cavalry. For my opponent, he's got a couple of Force Goblin Spider Riders, a couple of Force Goblin Spider Rider Archers, actually both the Regiment of Renown Skirmish Cav, good choices. 2 units of Nasty Skulkers protecting this Hammer of Gork here. They are, of course, stocked at the moment. And in the front line here, we've got Orc Boys, supported by Goblins, a couple of Black Orcs, Rusty Heirs, and Goblin Archers, as well as Azag the Slaughterer up in the air here. Very solid choice, never can go wrong with Azag. So, without further ado, let's get the battle rolling. You can see we're going to be pushing up on this kind of high ground area here. I, of course, can't see these Nasty Skulkers, so this catapult looks completely undefended to me. So we're going to bring these Dark Riders back, and just because I can see these Skirmish Cav, I know there's probably some Goblin tricks or traps here. We're going to just bring up a combined force. And Crone Hellebron's also making a beeline over this way as well to see if she can't drop some terror. So we see this Nasty Skulkers, we bait out the Smoke Bomb, which unfortunately does not quite catch. My opponent is on point in casting that at the right time, but that one does catch my Doomfire Warlocks. You can see they got, maybe not, now you can see they got hit by that, effect there. We do drop a Soul Blight on both sides, actually. Both the Bound Soul Blight and the Soul Blight from Azag the Slaughter, both being used there to support that melee engagement. The Doom Bolt comes down and actually takes out the crew from one of the artillery pieces. I was hoping it would actually destroy the piece itself. Unfortunately, it did not. We are losing this mobility engagement pretty handily. That being said, Crone Hellebron has come over, and Azag's in a bad situation now because as soon as he pops back up in the air, Crone Hellebron is right on station to start taking him down. So an aerial duel going to ensue here. Hellebron dropping her buffs, and let's see if that Heartrender and Dark Sword's actually going off on Azag. At the moment, does not look like it, so we'll have to check up on that later on in the battle. But a little bit of friendly fire coming in from the Death Creepers and the Mangy Marauders. We're going to try and push them off with these Dark Riders here, but very good catch by my opponent, getting him with the Spider Riders there. Looks like potentially a Spirit Leech going off on them as well, or Fate of Buna on Dark Riders. Pretty expensive target for that. I understand my opponent wanting to take them out. I'm force pathing them back to try and deal with these ranged units here, but Hellebron is getting the better of Azag in this duel here. The crazy Manticore lady with her crazy combat stats just working a number on Azag, so he's going to turn and run, which is definitely a good choice. Meanwhile, we've kind of kited back with our mobility, regrouped and re-engaged on this unit of Spider Riders here with everything. Frontline engagement also about to get underway here. You can see Dread Spear is going to clash with Goblins and Orc Boys. Orc Boys should do okay against Dread Spears. Sisters of Slaughter, on the other hand, going to get in here and absolutely just cut through these lighter Orc troops. Even Black Orcs will not necessarily do great against the Sisters of Slaughter here. Blades of the Blood Queen as well. It's going to absolutely clean house in this front line. An Overcast, oh man, that actually knocked her off her feet. Did you guys see that? That Overcast Spirit Leech knocked this Death Sorceress off her feet to give us the extra cast range to be able to pop that on Azag. He's getting very low on HP and leadership. We're pulling back the mobility core from this high ground here, since there's no real reason for me to stay up there. I could try and force it to shut down this Hammer of Gork, but honestly at this point, my main objective is to support this frontline engagement. Now that we've mostly dealt with Azag, we can support this frontline engagement and try and win it more decisively. Helebron drops down, and you can see there the effect goes down. So the the Cursed Blade is actually working. It's just it has an internal cooldown timer, so it looks like maybe not. It actually immediately reprocced there. That's interesting. I'll have to look at that, do a bit more testing to see exactly what the issue is. But another red mist being dropped down on this pocket. You can see that Frenzies, the Blades of the Blood Queen, and the Helebronai just going to town on Black Orcs here. Not something you see every day, but Helebron herself going to drop down here and try and get rid of these Black Orcs. Does look like potentially going to be routed off here. Yep, their leadership is fading fast, and the Orc front line is mostly broken here. With only a few units remaining, the mobility force was able to kind of sweep the flank here and get into the cookie jar, shut down the Rusty Heirs and the Goblin Archers. So at this point, it's just a bit of a cleanup operation. We're going to be pathing a lot of units towards this mobility force that came down from the high ground there, and pathing my own mobility force up and around the cliff's edge to do a bit of an end around on that Hammer of Gork there to shut it down. But yeah, at this point, for all intents and purposes, it is done. Another Overcast Spirit Leech has taken down Azag. You can see poor Azag tried to bring his crown back south to Nehekara. Unfortunately, paid the iron price on the way down. But yeah, Helebron trying to chase off some more Black Orcs here. We do have some regrouping Orc boys and more. Mobility force trying to hold things together, but the leadership for the Greenskins just super shaky at this point. And end around just about to land home here. We'll watch as these Doomfire Warlocks land a charge here on this Hammer of Gork. These poor little Gobos who have been free to fire this entire game suddenly going to be taken down by the purple flame of the Doomfire Warlocks. Beautiful stuff. And with them gone, that's going to be critical army losses for the Greenskins. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Definitely a fun battle. And yeah, in terms of the army breakdown here, Helebron herself going up against Azag there was a pretty favorable situation for me. Azag on the Wyvern I think is a good choice in this matchup, but my opponent, you know, I understand his choice to dive down there and apply a quick terror bomb to my mobility force in that big mobility engagement there, but he was winning that anyway, so whether or not he needed that terror bomb, I mean, he was going to win it quicker if he dropped it in there. But overall, I don't think that he necessarily needed to. Because then the risk was, as played out in the battle, Azag was on the ground for too long, so I was able to get close enough with Helebron that as soon as he popped back up in the air, I was going to be right on top of him. And so, probably the better move would have been to just keep Azag at a safe distance away from that engagement, still within range to give magical support, but not close enough that he's going to get potentially caught by Helebron. Other than that, my opponent's list was pretty solid, especially on that map. I really like the choice of the Hammer of Gork. That blind effect can be very powerful at whittling down high-value units. You definitely want to try and get that on something like the Blades of the Blood Queen as much as possible, just because of that minus 26 melee attack, 27 melee defense. It's really, you get great value, especially on these elite units that the Dark Elves can bring. So I like that pick quite a bit. The main thing I would probably change is to trade out these Orc boys for Biggins, either regular Biggins or Savage Biggins. They'll just generally trade better against most things that the Dark Elves can throw at you. Sisters of Slaughter will still cut them up, but you want to try and have your support on station ready for when that mainline engagement comes. It's pretty critical, especially against Helebron builds with the Red Mist Murder Party, that you time your WA appropriately on the frontline engagement. So when the main engagement's about to go down, your infantry line's about to clash, you need to make sure that WA is active, because then your units will be punching way above their weight class, and maybe even, you know, dropping, in this case, something like a Soul Blight in the front line to debuff the enemy would have been pretty advantageous as well. It's because you need your Orc infantry to outtrade the Dark Elf infantry, and you're really mostly only going to do that with WA active. It's two of the strongest frontline factions, in my opinion, in the game right now. Norska might be like the third aspect of that, but both of these, especially with Crone Helebron, the Dark Elves can put together a really mean frontline rush. And so it's just something to be aware of. But yeah, in terms of the army composition, if we go ahead and go to the army builder screen here. We can switch on over to the Greenskins and have a look. So Azag, definitely like that pick here. Particularly if you're going with Soul Blight, you may not necessarily need the Black Orcs. Having the immunity to psychology is always nice, but particularly if you're going to bring Soul Blight, I personally would also cut Fate of Una as well. It's not nearly as effective as it used to be. I do think it's a little bit of a magic sink potentially, so we'll go with just Spirit Leech and Soul Blight and try and focus that Spirit Leech on my opponent's characters. That being said, of course, Crone Hellebron does have the magic resistance, so the Spirit Leech isn't going to be great against her, especially depending on her mount choice. But you will still get value from it, especially because she can't heal, unlike the other two Dark Elf Legendary Lords at the moment. Malekith and Marathi both have access to self-healing with the spells from the lore of Dark Magic, so you will get value from Spirit Leech against Hellebron because she lacks that access. But in terms of the rest of the army here, a couple of Meat Shield Gobos are never a bad idea. The mobility force is honestly pretty solid here that he had put together. You'll be able to outclass most fast cab forces from the Dark Elves with this mobility force. The two Skulkers, probably a good idea to help protect. I'd probably even bring a couple more for the front line just to supplement a little bit of extra armor piercing. We'll grab some Savage Orc Biggins as well as the front line rather than using the Black Orcs and the Orc Boys, just because these guys have the anti-large bonus. They also just have massive weapon strength to begin with, so against the unarmored Dark Elf units they'll do quite well. Yeah, we already talked about timing the wall appropriately, and for the rest of the points you have access to, you could do a myriad of different things. You know, maybe grab some Squig Hoppers to support the front line. Maybe you do want to grab the Rusty Arrows, although infantry skirmishers can be potentially pretty risky, especially the shorter range ones that the Greenskins have access to. But if you are going with an armor melter build, you probably want some armor sundering, so maybe grabbing the 8-peak loonies and of course the Warlord's Boys, who are actually the ones with the armor sundering here, might not be a bad idea just to supplement the front line. And of course 8-peak loonies with their Unbreakable are good in pretty much every matchup. So let me know your guys' thoughts though. It's just kind of me spitballing here. Definitely enjoyed the game though. Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. You already know all that jazz. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.